If you watched my recent Subaru XT video, you know that was a very strange car, packed with a plethora of 80s gimmicks. In 1992, the XT was replaced with the SVX. Okay, this one looks a little more normal. Oh, never mind. The SVX is yet another car with styling designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro at Itala Design. So let's start by looking at said styling. Well, the long horizontal taillight bar, something which has come back into style of late, is the one part of it that's reminiscent of the outgoing XT model. The nearly wraparound glass hatch and spoiler I think give it an upscale sporty look, and the low hood line is achievable thanks to its horizontally opposed 6-cylinder engine, combined with flush mount headlights and sort of a faux light grille, which I think gives the front a pretty decent look. Also, check out the illuminated keyhole. Obviously, what stands out as the most unusual feature of this car are the split windows. Only the portion of the front and rear windows contained within this outline roll down. Now, my initial reaction to this was, well, that's the stupidest thing ever. Why would you only want part of the window to roll down? But there is actually a reason for this. Subaru used a unique glass to metal bonding process that allowed the glass to be mounted over the body pillars, meaning the A, B, and C pillars are almost non-existent. I mean, they're there, but you don't really see them. The entire cockpit just seems to be a surround of glass. It not only looks good, but it's also great for vision. Because of this, the doors extend way up into the roofline, and I guess it wouldn't have really been possible for the glass to roll down all the way with this design. And this also helps the car achieve a low drag coefficient of 0.29. Those in favor of this design will also tell you that the window can be rolled down fully without excessive wind buffeting in your face at highway speeds, and if you're worried about drive-through convenience, well, the windows are the least of your troubles because there ain't no cup holders. These are all valid points, and I suppose I'd have to actually drive one to be able to judge it, but I don't know, I still kind of think I'd rather have windows that fully roll down, but at least these look much better than the windows on the DeLorean. The one thing I do wonder about though is in the event of an accident where the door can't be opened and you have to either escape yourself out the window or the fire department has to get you out through the window, I feel like this might make that a little bit more difficult. Definitely don't drive one of these into a river. The inside of these is actually very nice. The dash layout is very driver-centric, and there's a soft fabric accent that runs across the front of the dash and onto the doors. It reminds me a little of the 300ZX interior in that regard, although on the SVX it wraps much higher up onto the dash. All the controls are placed closely within the driver's reach. Automatic climate control is standard, and the temperature select panel is just to the right of the steering wheel. The standard cassette or optional 6-speaker CD cassette combo is hidden behind a little panel below the climate controls for a more streamlined look. This panel, as well as some of the other trim around the gauge cluster bezel and also on the door panels, is actually wood grain, but it's so dark that I didn't even notice it was wood grain until I saw some real close-up pictures. The wood grain is actually optional and part of the touring package. The instrument cluster has clear gauges and plenty of dummy lights, but
the SVX is yet another luxury sports coupe that has no oil pressure gauge or voltmeter.
Right. Thanks, John. The leather, the 6-speaker CD audio system, as well as the power sunroof, a power adjustable 8-way driver's seat, speed-sensitive power steering, and heated outside mirrors are also all part of the optional touring package. Still though, the SVX came very well equipped in standard configuration with things like power windows and locks, cruise control, an alarm, a driver's airbag, a memory, tilt and telescoping steering wheel, alloy wheels, projector low beams, and fog lights. But then again, I would expect a decent array of standard features, since starting at a little over $24,000 for the US base model in '92, this was by far Subaru's most expensive car. Hey peasant, check out my new Subaru. It's the most expensive model they sell. What do you think? Really? All that money and you don't even get full windows? The windows are fine. Anyways, you don't need windows. This thing has ice cold AC. What do you got? $10,000 more in the bank. Moving on to the powertrain, the SVX uses the EG33, Subaru's new dual overhead cam horizontally opposed 6-cylinder, rated at 230 horsepower and 224 pound-feet of torque. The SVX is full-time all-wheel drive and uses Subaru's active torque split system first introduced on the 88 XT6, which uses an electronic control unit to continuously vary the amount of torque sent to the rear wheels based on driving conditions, which it determines based on inputs received from various sensors. Under normal driving conditions, 90% of the torque goes to the front wheels, but as the wheels lose traction, up to 50% of torque can be sent to the rear through a viscous limited slip. In markets outside of the US, a different, more advanced system was available called variable torque distribution. The VTD all-wheel drive system adds a planetary center differential and under normal driving conditions sends 36% of the torque up front and 64% to the rear, so quite a different bias and I would imagine a better handling experience. It will then send more torque up front as needed when slippage occurs. This system is available on many Subarus today, but in the 90s it could not be offered on the SVX in America because it was not capable of running in two-wheel drive and therefore could not be used on two-wheel drive dynos, which some states were still using for emissions testing. It wasn't until regulations changed that the VTD system could be used here, and the first model we saw it on was the Outback VDC. Brakes are four-wheel disc with ABS as standard, and the SVX has fully independent front and rear suspension. And let me tell ya, them brakes work. A very short braking distance was one of this vehicle's strong points. All SVXs use a 4-speed automatic transmission. There is no manual option. I know, but there is a reason for this. At the time, Subaru did not have a manual transmission capable of handling the horsepower and torque of the EG33. That's a shame, but since this was marketed as an upscale luxury coupe, I'm actually not sure how well a manual option would have sold anyway, even in the 90s. I would be remiss, though, to not point out that early model years had some issues with the automatic transmission. The torque converter clutch would disintegrate and clog the radiator in 92 models, and clutch failures in general were common until late 1994 production models. Today, some owners are manual swapping these with later model WRX transmissions, and I imagine that would make these a lot more fun and more reliable. Whoever did this swap did a really good job. It looks pretty much factory. Now, while the SVX is a cool car with a lot going for it, it is very odd, even for a 90s Subaru, and its high price point made it a bit of a hard sell. It probably didn't help that the SVX had a pretty weak marketing campaign. The TV commercials were just really boring, not memorable at all, and the print ads were just kind of stupid. I mean, look at this one. A car for the half of you that's 17 and the half of you that's retired? I don't want to be 17 or 70. Those are terrible ages and pretty far outside the target demographic for this vehicle, I would think. Subaru initially forecasted selling 10,000 of these per year in the US, but the 1992 model year barely did half of that, selling 5,280 units, and in 93 that dropped to 3,859. For 1994, Subaru added cheaper front-wheel drive models to the lineup as the SVX L and LS. The L came in around $10,000 cheaper than a fully loaded all-wheel drive model, which was now badged as the LSI, but the all-wheel drive system wasn't the only thing that got cut. The LSI model was fully loaded with pretty much everything that used to be part of the optional touring package, plus has a new 50-50 split folding rear seat. It always folded down, but it was just a one-piece seat back on 92 and 93 models. The LS subtracts the leather, the power driver's seat, the heated mirrors, 2 of the 6 speakers, and the speed-sensitive power steering. It also just has the one-piece folding rear seat. The L subtracts the wood trim, the sunroof, the ABS, and even the passenger side airbag, which gets added as standard in 94 to LS and LSI models. This does change in 95 when they made the passenger airbag standard on all models. Seems like they also might have changed the wood tone trim in 94 and up models. It just pops a lot more and is much more noticeable on the 94 and newer models. Unfortunately for Subaru, the cheaper front drive models did nothing to help sales. 94 model year sales slumped to just 1,666 units, and that number continued to drop until its final 97 model year, where sales departments around the country only managed to unload 640 of them. Since consumers were pretty much ignoring the front-wheel drive models, in 95 they changed it so only the base model was front drive, and in 96 all trims went back to all-wheel drive. They did make one cosmetic change for the final 97 model year. The SVX gets a new body-colored grille. What kind of disgraced sales team did I hire at this place? Why has the SVX been sitting in the showroom for 7 months? Why can't anyone sell that thing? No one wants to pay $31,000 for it. Yeah, and people don't like the windows. Excuses. When When I was on the floor, I would have sold 10 of these by now. I can see you order takers need an incentive. Here's one. Whoever sells the SVX doesn't get fired. How about that? Oh, that works for me. I was gonna quit anyway. Yeah, me too. My buddy works at Honda and he makes way more money. All right, see ya. Bye. Wait, what? Excuse me, sir. Are there any salespeople here? I want to buy a car. Oh, are you interested in the SVX? Ew, no. I want an Impreza. Then f*** off. This is almost as bad as the service I got at Dodge. Subaru did consider making a sport wagon based off the SVX. They debuted a concept car called the Amados in 1991, but decided not to bring it to production, probably wisely.